let's dive into a story that's about 2,500 years old, all about a conflict that got so bitter it actually took the Buddha himself to solve it. And what's really amazing is that his solution, well, it's just as powerful today as it was back then.
Seriously, think about it. We've all been there, right? A disagreement gets so heated, so personal, that it feels like there's no way forward. What do? Well, this is not a new problem. In fact, it's the exact dilemma at the very heart of the story we're about to explore.
So, to set the scene, we're in an ancient place called Kosambi, and an old text describes the community of monks living there as being so divided they were literally, and this is the direct translation, piercing each other with verbal daggers. Wow, it's just such a powerful image for a fight that had completely spun out of control.
As you can imagine, word of this massive dispute eventually gets back to the Buddha. And he doesn't just send a memo or a messenger, he goes there himself. He calls all the feuding monks together to face this thing head on.
And the situation was just dire. The text uses these great Pali words to describe them. Bandhanajata, which means they were prone to quarreling, and kalahajata, meaning they were just constantly getting into disputes. They were at a total standstill, totally unable to persuade each other or find any kind of common ground.
So what did the Buddha do? This is the brilliant part. He didn't take sides. He didn't get into the weeds of who is right or wrong. Nope. He went straight to the root of the problem, and he diagnosed the sickness in their community with one single genius question.
He asks them this incredibly precise question. He says, when you were in the middle of all this fighting, were your actions, your words, and even your thoughts filled with metta? That's the Pali word for loving kindness. He's asking them to check in on every level, their physical actions, their speech, and yes, even what they were thinking privately. Was there any genuine kindness in any of it?
And their answer was so simple, so honest. No hetam bhante. No, venerable sir. And just like that, with that one admission, the diagnosis was complete. The real issue wasn't what they were arguing about. It was the total, complete absence of loving kindness in how they were doing it. Okay, so with the diagnosis crystal clear, the Buddha then offers the prescription. He lays out these 6 principles for creating harmony, known as the Chasaraniya Dhamma, which translates to something like 6 qualities worth remembering. These were real practical steps to start rebuilding their broken community.
You can see the logic here. The first 3 are a direct fix for their problem. Bring loving kindness back into your actions, your words, and your thoughts. The next 3 build on that to make the whole community stronger. Share what you have generously, agree on a common code of ethics, and, this is the big one, work toward a shared, unified perspective.
Now, all 6 of these principles are super important, but the Buddha points to one of them as being the absolute linchpin. You know, the one thing that holds all the others together and makes them work. And to explain this, the text gives us this simple, really powerful metaphor. Picture a classic A-frame roof on a house. The ridgepole, or the kutam, is that one single beam running along the very top that locks the 2 sloping sides together. You take that out, and the whole structure just collapses. And that is the crucial point. That 6th principle, the noble view, or Arya Ditti, is the community's ridgepole. It's this shared perspective that's rooted in wisdom and compassion. This is what makes all the other acts of kindness and sharing stable and meaningful. Without it, everything else falls apart. So you might be wondering, what does a person who has this unifying noble view actually look like? Well, it's not just some abstract idea. The text actually gives us 7 clear, observable signs of someone who has really developed this kind of insight. And it's a pretty fascinating list, isn't it? This person's mind is open and ready for the truth, and they have a deep inner peace. They're also really humble. They admit when they're wrong quickly. They're curious, always wanting to learn more. And finally, they're fantastic listeners who find real joy in understanding things. These are the tangible results of a unified mind. So, how did our story end? Well, with this clear path forward, all that anger and hostility just dissolved. The text says the monks were attamana, that their minds were gladdened. They were just delighted, and they rejoiced in what they had learned, finally brought back together by this shared understanding. And that really brings it all back to us today. This story shows us that harmony isn't about everyone agreeing on every single little thing. It's about grounding ourselves in a shared, noble view,
a common commitment to kindness, to understanding, and to wisdom. So the question for all of us is, if a unifying perspective can heal a fractured community, where do we even begin to find one in our own divided world?